And it's really weird because when I was preparing for this video, I noticed some stuff during this weekend. It was pick 6, pick 3, pick 4, and I watched the Florida and the Georgia game. And really, nobody gave Georgia a chance. I can understand their guy. He was hyped. He was seriously hyped. But the thing is, I watched two quarterbacks throw interception after interception after interception. And I just sat there and I looked at it. And if you take a little time to kind of feel out the flow of something, because I was looking at the line and you could just tell Aaron Murphy, the quarterback for University of Georgia, he wasn't coming. He was doing way too much. He was hesitant. He was indecisive. And the thing is, in his mind, he had wrote a narrative. And this is really funny because he was trying not to do the very thing that he kept doing over and over again, which was throwing in interceptions. And some of them were like, the defender was more open than his guy. And it was just weird. Then I sat back and I thought about it, and I remember some of my experiences. And this, you can instantly write a narrative that can either make you better or screw you up. And this is the narrative that he wrote. And this is how it goes. Because remember, if I told you, and this is a follow-up of be careful what you believe in. And I kept thinking, I don't want to get a ticket. I don't want to get a ticket, right? But when you think of things with emotion and intensity, usually the very thing that you don't want comes to be because you're thinking of it more than you think of the positive outcome, to with a ratio of maybe 10 to 1, 20 to 1, maybe even 30 to 1. Because I looked at him and I saw it. And it was like, okay, because he was at the line checking, trying to get his read for the defense. And he's looking to the sideline. Clock's going down. And I'm like, okay, this guy's about to throw another interception. Boom, he did. Because he was tight. Now, how does a quarterback in a collegiate game relate to you? Because many of you do the same thing. I've been guilty of it. I have to actually still to this day work about it because I know it's going to sound a little strange and it's going to sound a little bit over the top, but when negative thoughts are entering my mind, I instantly turn them around or replace them with positive thoughts. And the thing is, you have to put a little bit more onto it than just, okay, I'm going to think something positive. Because you need the positive thought, you need the emotional intensity. That's what gets you. Because if you're going, I want to change my circumstances, not a lot of energy there. Oh shit, I hope I don't get a ticket. It's a lot of energy there. So it's the energy that adds the extra wrinkle to the fabric of that demise. I want you to think about that. Because right now, I want you to think, what type of narrative have you written for your life? And there's two kinds. There's the one of intent and design, and then there's one that just, this is life, it's just coming, and I'm just going to take it. That's usually how it goes. And the people who actively design their lives are thought to be arrogant, not humble. Seriously. We live in a culture of opposing ideas because check out now. I watched the Notre Dame and Oklahoma game. I really had watched neither team, so I had no read on who was going to win because I don't listen to the talking heads. I watch the games. You watch the games, you get a feel for the game. You got a better read of who's going to win, and Notre Dame came out the gate like, psh, and they ain't really looked back. They pretty much dominated that whole game from start to finish. And at the end, Notre Dame star linebacker, Manti Te'o, it's just about being humble, and it's just about being humble. Humble will not win you a damn championship. It's not going to happen. Humble, I think we like that because when someone who's worked really hard and they've put themselves in the upper echelon of their profession, their sport, whatever arena in life that they're operating on, we want them to be humble because it doesn't make the rest of us who are not working that hard feel like shit. That's what the humble thing's about. Oh, humble. Be humble. Be humble because you will not offend me because I'm not working as hard as you. I want you to think about this. People who are extremely successful don't even talk about humble things. Don't even talk about it. Like they see someone that's like, oh wow, that was great, he did that. They don't go, oh wow, yeah, he was so humble. No, that is part of the American psychology that fucks you up. Okay, I'm not saying go out, wave a flag with all your accomplishments on it, but this humble thing is very hard to be a high achieving person and to be super humble. Because one, you need a certain level of confidence to be a high achiever. You need a certain level of confidence. It's just not going to come like. I want you to identify people in your life, okay, in your life who are, that you personally think, whatever level that may be, because there's different shades of success. And I want you to think how many of those people are like super, super humble. They may be laid back and calm, but that doesn't mean they're humble, because I got a friend, he is like easy like Sunday morning, but you get in his face, you're going to see another side. And humble has nothing to do with it. So that's kind of part of the narrative, because, you know, he was sitting there with the guys and, you know, it's like, oh, he's so humble and he's so humble. And I'm trying to think of all of the Super Bowl MVPs who were like super humble. Eli didn't really start pimping it out till he got a little swagger to him. He first came in, he was good, but no, Eli got a little swag to him now. And part of being a successful athlete is confidence. Part of being a successful business person is confidence. Part of being a successful husband or wife is confidence. You can't go to your mate like, I hope I'm treating you well. That doesn't make anyone feel warm and fuzzy. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't. But if you call up your wife, you're at work, and you say, you know, I miss you. When I get home, I'm gonna rock your world. You gonna feel good, and she's gonna feel good. It's that humble ain't nowhere up in that. Ask any woman, if you're a dude, does humble make her panties wet? Ask any woman. And I want you as a dude to ask yourself, does humble make your dick hard? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's passion, it's energy, and it's enthusiasm. Those are the things that drive you to a higher state. Those are the things that make you different, better, more successful, whatever that may be for you. But let the humble thing go. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's a very deeply rooted narrative in American culture that's tripping a lot of people up. Because I want you to think about how your mind operates. I should be humble. By saying you should be humble, you can actually prevent a level of success happening in your life, because if you bought into the narrative of being humble and all the people who are not humble are successful, I want you to think about this, then you don't want to be like those people who are not humble. So you're not going to be successful like they are, because to be humble, you can't be like them. Do you get how powerful that is? Because I'll give you some other examples. Like, I live in a neighborhood that's pretty well to do. Bentleys around here, Ferraris, Maseratis. I mean, I see them daily. And sometimes I'll see 3 and 4 in an hour. Different car. Back in my life when I was a scrub, when I wasn't successful, and this is another part of growth, I would look at that stuff and I would think these things. Like, you always hear that, oh, you know, people who are wealthy, they're not happy. Or a guy that's driving a really nice car, he is compensating for something. Couldn't be that, you know, a Ferrari or a Maserati or something like that. It's just a badass car. That shit's fun. No. He has to have a little dick. Well, I bought into crap like that, and I would look at people. Then one day, when I started to become successful and I got to a different level and I wanted something, I realized what an idiot I was. When I see someone, I was walking last night, someone had the Rolls Royce Ghost. That's the one with the suicide doors. And I was like, that's a really nice car. He's probably a real successful person. Or he or she, the windows were tinted. I couldn't even tell who was driving. But your self-talk is super important, because when you're hating on someone that has something that you secretly want, you're going to push that or that lifestyle, all that stuff away. You're going to push it away because you're hating on it. There's this guy that drives a Maserati. I see him all the time. You know, we're not friends. I just see him enough to know he lives right here somewhere. That's a nice car. If you're a person, now when you see someone with a nice car and you start saying they're flashy, they're trying to show off, blah, 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 change that conversation. Because just like frequently that girl in high school that everyone thought was a whore usually ends up being a virgin, and sometimes she is a whore, until you get the rest of the story, you don't really know. And a lot of chicks that were labeled as something actually were not. You know, I found it out later in life. And with that, you've got to pull back from traditional norms. Let's talk about some stuff that we do know. Let's take Donald Trump. Donald Trump has an ego problem. Donald Trump is compensating for something. Because if you don't know the story of Trump, I'm gonna give it to you really, really quick. You know, everyone looks at his story, but I look beyond that, because many, many years ago, I used to read books and study people that were successful and try to emulate them. Well, what I read about Trump was his father in the 70s built a $33 million real estate empire in the 70s, which is probably equivalent to $1 billion something today. That's what Donald started with. He started with literally $1 billion. Many of you out there, based on stuff that you've learned from me on YouTube, the Hustler Mindset, if you had $1 billion with the new mindset that you're having or developing, you could do just as well as him. See, that's the thing. That's what I look at, because when it was, I used to, all this stuff has changed, because I used to look at The Apprentice, and I remember the very first one, and I thought it was great. Bill Stansnick, Kwame. Kwame lost it because he didn't have the courage to fire Omarosa. And, Donald was talking about education. This is a simple fact. And if you look at Donald Trump's kids, whether they went to school or not, they were going to have a grand and fabulous life. Regardless of their educational attainment, regardless of their GPA, they were going to have a billionaire lifestyle. Education had nothing to do with it. It was a birthright. The same birthright that Donald Trump was granted. And then their kids, probably the same thing. But if you go back in the family tree, it was the grandfather Trump that was really the man. Donald Trump has filed bankruptcy several times. But this is the man that wants to criticize our president. But, that's a whole nother thing, and I'm not going to get into that. But what I'm going to say is, when you look at things and you look at narratives, you have to be honest with yourself. And you have to say, why am I hating? Because part of being careful what you believe is, like another one, like all women that wear tight dresses are whores. No, they're not. It's not true. In the black community, there's this thing that, women wear weave. They hate themselves. And it's not true. But people like these labels and they like these narratives because it makes it easy for them to put someone in a box really quick and not really develop a relationship or exercise any type of intellectual muscle, because people like systems and people like routine and they like tradition, and they don't like change too much. There was a study that came out many years ago. 10-15% change is kind of like the max that folks can deal with. Anything beyond that, it's like cataclysmic. Seriously, it is cataclysmic. And that's part of the hustler mindset, is expanding from that 15%. expanding to, because in the last 4 years, my life has changed about 70%. Every day I used this time, I would be looking at my hot list of what auctions I was going to go to, or looking at how many things I was going to list up on eBay, or all that stuff. It's totally changed. It's a total lifestyle change. And if I did not expand my mentality, I would be cracking up. And this is another reason that you see people who go back to something. They try to get out of something, but they go back to it. And the reason they go back to it is their comfort zone has never expanded. Never expanded that comfort zone. So it's very hard for them to move from one thing to another, because once you build up a certain level of expertise, when you build up a certain level of comfort, it's hard to let that go, even if it's hurting you. The devil we know is better than the angel we've never seen. Think about that. How many times have you done something like that was detrimental to yourself, but it was your routine, it was your normal, you were comfortable? You got to get past normal and expand it and build it and bring it higher and really, really push yourself, because living in our new economy, which is an international economy, we're straight up global, you're no longer competing with the guy down the street or the guy in California. You're competing with the guy in the Indian village who has blackout grid problems, but he's got satellite internet and he's writing code. That's who you're competing. You're competing against all that. And we live in a society that you have to have some type of technological savvy. You have to. You can't be afraid of change. You can't be afraid to embrace change. You can't be afraid to move forward. Now, going back to the narratives, if you've adopted a narrative that wealth, success, or certain things are negative, and if you append that negative pin on there, it's going to be very hard for you to get those things, because your subconscious mind is hating all day long, 24/7, 365. That script is rolling. That record's playing. I hate, I hate, I hate. And you wonder why you can't move forward in your life. You have to let some stuff go. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to piss off the women in this group. And, maybe piss off some of the dudes. But a long time ago, BC, before cable, no, it wasn't that long ago, I had a lot of problems dating. Grew up in Alabama. Was raised to be a perfect gentleman. Was raised to do stuff. I would say silly stuff like, well, if I get married and, we got 2 cars and one's crappy and one's good, my wife's going to get the nice car. And at one point I was married and I actually did that stuff. Now the thing is, what I didn't get, and my grandfather, I think, did a great job in teaching me how to be a man. He told me a lot of stuff, but what he told me was man to family man to businessman. He, because, when I came around, he was my grandfather. He was a little dude. There were certain things that didn't happen in his life that he couldn't really prepare me for, because he didn't really go through it. And, part of that was dating, because, he met my grandmother, they got married, and they stayed married until they both passed on. But the whole deal is, the world's changed in many ways, and if you stick to a traditional narrative and you hook up with a woman who is not operating on that traditional narrative, what you present looks really good to her. But because you're scripted in that narrative, you're not paying attention that she's not a traditional woman, and she's not giving you traditional love, and she's not giving you traditional respect. But because you're scripted in that narrative, and a lot of women push that because it's great for them, but it sucks for you. Well, I actually pushed that narrative away. And my dating life totally changed. Totally changed. I treat people the way that they come. I used to treat people better than they really were, and it backfired on me time and time again. And this is no to go out and abuse anyone or to cuss anyone out. But the thing is, you really have to look at, from a judicious standpoint, what do you want from dating? Because before, I was just like, I'm a good dude. I'm this. And really, I had no real frame of reference on what I wanted. And a lot of dudes are like that. They're like, I want a chick. I want a pretty chick. And they have not really nailed it down to, I want a woman that's going to make me happy. I want someone who's going to share happiness with me. Let me correct that. No one really makes you happy. Happiness is your own responsibility. But it's a lot easier to maintain your happiness when you have someone else who's also happy. I also learned that you need to like people. I honestly believe that if you like someone a lot, that's actually better than loving them, because you're going to stay together again. But after I eradicated that stuff, I was able to date at will, not spend a lot of money, and pretty much have myself a great time. And I met a lot of great women because I changed all of that. Believe me, dudes, all that stuff that you're hearing, it's a narrative that's steeped in a time that no longer exists. And it'll shake itself out in the next 20 years. But if you want to be ahead of the curve, you need to make some changes now. And that's the whole thing about narratives, because for years my friends have thought I was crazy. They're like, how the hell did you get away with that? Really? She's dating you for real? And the thing is, I decided what I wanted. And when you decide what you want, it's amazing how quick it will show up. When you really, really decide that I want this. And not, and just really claim it and work toward it. A lot of people, it's like going for a job interview and you're like, I'm not going to get it. You see, reality TV right now is really creating some freak out moments for people, because I see people on reality television and they go for an interview, and I'm never acting like that. I would go in an interview, I nailed it or I fucked up. I knew. I could just feel it. I knew. I was like, I'm getting this job. I'm not getting this job. I mean, it was just like, bam, and this was after it. And also, something else. I learned to put myself mentally in better positions, because it's amazing that when you have the right mental posture, that things start to come to you. I'll give you another example. And this is someone that recently met a guy. And I was just sitting there. I was in Waffle House. And just kind of chatting the guy up. And it was kind of like, he owns his own business. Really neat business. They actually reconfigure airplane engines to run on diesel and other things, and they sell them in third world countries because jet fuel, airline fuel is pretty sparse in those parts, but they can get this other stuff. So it's pretty cool. And essentially, I'm probably going to get a customer because I have skills that he needs to run his business. And it was just started from a simple conversation at Waffle House. Part of, developing the narrative and going back to that humble crap, you have to be saying, I do X. And it's like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh, I have a YouTube channel and I have a blog and I do this and all this stuff. And the thing is, because I've had a business and I've had many, many people come to my office and like, hey, I could solve all your problems. And they couldn't solve one. So, and I was able to speak to him on a certain language that he knew I wasn't bullshitting, because I've been in his position where people is like, hey, I'm going to come do this. And essentially, people just want to get paid on a per hour basis, whether they achieve the goal or not. And that's really sucks on the business end. But that's, what I'm saying. Every time I go out, I usually chat someone up because, most of the time I'm working, writing, whatever. So I don't really get out a lot. And it's part of my social interaction. And, with the assignment, go out and meet 10 people. And that's not just a one-off deal. You need to keep doing that and keep doing it, because as you expand your circle, and understand, 50 years ago, if I stood up in some church and was talking about this, people would be looking at me like I'm crazy, because it was more natural back then. But with all our digital connections, with all of our social media, from a one-to-one level, we're more disconnected in this society than ever before. People don't even know how to introduce themselves. People get awkward. And this is something else I had to learn, because, I used to think that people were rude, but many times they don't know how to introduce themselves because they're used to communicating through text, email, or having someone else communicate for them to kind of warm up. Like the wingman. Like, your wingman goes in and, warms up the girl for you. I have never understood that. For those of you out there who know about it, explain it to me, because just me, my opinion, myopic as it may be, if you need your boy to go talk to the girl, he might as well be fucking her. I'm like, seriously, that's where it starts. That's the first thing. This whole thing about going and getting your boy, this whole thing with athletes, like, hey, they got their posse, and then they got like, hey, I guess the chick coordinator, the CC, goes over and like, hey, we're in the VIP, we want you to come over here, whatever. But essentially, we live in a society where people are very disconnected. Another reason I created the Hustler Mindset Project, and like I said, Sparta, I was serious about that, is I'm able to connect with a more engaged group of people, because as many people, as we're going to talk about in future episodes, and there's other things I'm working on, social media is like a bullhorn. You can make a lot of noise, and a lot of people know that you're holding that bullhorn, but depending on the level of engagement, you may not get the reaction or results that you want. Because, this summer I did a lot of social media engagement. Did it on steroids. I was doing this, I was doing that. I spent money going to social media webinars. I went to places, I talked to people. And from, my business experience, just looking at how things work, I understand that sometimes you buy capacity in advance of the results. So I get that. And I was ready for that. But the whole time I'm tracking. And at some point, the hockey stick thing was supposed to happen. Never happened. And the thing is, you can get a lot of followers and you can get a lot of people to like your Facebook page. But in the end, without engagement, it means nothing. I'm not going to say don't work on your social media aspects, but I'm going to say don't spend a crazy amount of time on that stuff. Spend more time talking to real people in person as often as you can. That will give you a greater connection. That will give you more buyers. And I want you to think about this. When I had the storage auction business, we had a core group for those Saturday Ultimate Garage Sales of 200, 250. That came through most weekends. That created anywhere from 4 Gs to 12 Gs with the one-offs coming from Craigslist, eBay people coming to pick up their stuff. Very small group of people, but they were highly engaged. And I forgot that. I got on the whole social media thing, and I'm online, and I'm doing this, and I'm like working. But once again, measure your results, because you could do something for years, and if you're not measuring your results, you could have got more results or dividends or benefits from year one than you did from year two, but because you're not tracking it and measuring it, you don't know. I'll give you an example of that. I abandoned my blog a few times because YouTube had more traction. I look at the numbers and I look at the time. I could do a video quicker than I could write a blog post. Do the video, and when I say do the video, tape it, processing and editing takes a little longer. But even if it was the same amount of time, the decision would have been the same to go more with YouTube and to move forward with video, because it was more effective. Every time I looked at the numbers, it always was the same. Video was like head and shoulder. Video crushed the blog thing. Now, what's funny about the blog thing, and I didn't do this right, because I started off with a Toshiba laptop and I got lazy and I focused on too many things. Because if I had continued to do the things that I know what to do, build a list, I had the list, laptop did whatever it did, lost that list, and I would have had a lot bigger and more engaged crowd at this journey. But the whole point is, that's what I said. Like, I stopped everything. And it's like, okay, we're going to start over again, but we're going to work more on engagement. And that's what I'm telling you. Because a few people, and I'll just give you some numbers. This is the hustling mindset. This is where I'm going to tell you the truth. When I created this project, my goal, because there's a cost to this, website, was 10 people a month. That was the goal. 10 people a month. And I figured, December, be at 30, cool. And I was going to do one video a week. That was the goal. Well, so many of you said, hey, I like it. I really like these videos much more than I like the videos on YouTube. And, the response and just looking at the numbers, it's like my energy is better served in here in Sparta than it is on YouTube. Which is why, I got slack on the YouTube videos. But I cannot just like leave YouTube and like, oh no, we're just going to do this. No, I have to maintain both, and that's where that balance is. But once again, looking at feedback, looking at numbers, that this is more fun. This is more engagement. I can be more honest. I don't have to worry about videos being taken down because I said something. So that, that type of thing, But once again, it's about narratives. My narrative is I can be successful in anything that I put my heart and effort into. I started writing that narrative probably around 2000. Unwittingly, I didn't know. Because I started making purposeful, intentful decisions. But it starts with the narrative. Because if you're trying to make a decision, but you have this narrative that's ultimate conflict, the oldest narrative is usually going to win. So for years, you have been saying, successful people are perverts. Successful people are this. Then at some point, you're like, hey, I want to be a successful person financially. Old. So to beat that, you have to actually realize that narrative's in there. Because, let's see, that's another thing. A lot of people don't realize there's, that it's going on. If you remember the old adage, the black angel, the white angel, and they're all odds, there's bigger angels. There's this old ass angel with a stick, and there's this new little angel who's trying to get some wings, and that old angel's like all upside the head because you don't know that's going on, and that's that battle. So all the stuff that I tell you to do in here, and every now and then I rearrange the sheet and I rearrange the videos of what you should do. Because actively knowing that battle's going on and then start putting stuff in there and putting in good information, you can win that battle. Going back to something I put out on YouTube a long time ago about the diving board exercise. I had a few people who did it and they emailed me. It's like, I did the same shit. It's in your mind. There is no real water. It's no diving. There is no fear of injury. You can't get injured. And I was messing it up. It was so cool. I was doing something and I did the board and diving board exercise, and I haven't done it in a long time. And it's just hit the water, hands like this, boosh. And I was like, because you have to control your mind. You have to control your mind, because another thing is, once you start controlling your mind, and you're going to find this, and many of you may already be there, you're going to find television not as enjoyable as it once was. Because there's something new that's happening. And if you've been paying attention, that product placements they've been going on in television shows, but sometimes shows are designed to sell a certain thing. And it's not even about entertainment anymore. It's about a sales pitch wrapped in entertainment. And I'm not going to say that that's bad, but if you want to watch television to be entertained, that's why I think YouTube's growing and other sites are growing, because people can create this type of content and not have to be beholden to, certain scripts. Such as, if we don't break so many numbers, we're going to yank your show. That's why I love YouTube. But the whole deal is, as you go through this week, I want you to really think about, hey, what are you scripting in your life? What kind of beliefs do you have that are limiting you right now? Because I'm telling you, they're in there. They're in there. And I know, coming from, a single parent household, I'm not gonna say I was raised by my mom raised me by herself, because there was other people. There was my grandfather, my grandmother, a neighborhood full of wonderful people, and I had something, even though we were poor, that a lot of people growing up today don't have. I had stability. First time I moved, I left my mom's house to join the military. Never moved as a kid, and that is kind of rare for a lot of people growing up today. It's extremely rare, and you just kind of know that it gives you some grounding. I can't quite explain it, but you just know that the next day that things are going to be the same, and that provides a sense of comfort. And I think kids need that more so than adults, and some adults need that. But this week, think about those limiting beliefs. Think about stuff that you say, and understand, just kind of start listening to what you say, because it's kind of weird, listening to your own thoughts, because thoughts just happen. But if you really because I'll give you another example, and I actually vocalized this because I was at my favorite place, Vino, a few years ago, and there was this young lady who was she was enthusiastic. They was doing something there about something. She came over, she introduced herself, she was very nice. And I said something really jacked up to my friend I was sitting next to. And I had to really roll that back. I'm like, whoa, you know what? That's really fucked up. I had to check myself. And it's not fun. It's not pleasant. But I was like, that was really, really wrong. And I was like, next time I do something like that, check me. Say I'm stupid. Because it was wrong. And the danger to that is, one, it's wrong to that person, but you're writing a bad narrative for yourself. And I checked myself. I stopped doing it. Like, give you an example of stuff I do, and it's gonna sound maybe crazy, but when I see people, because I'm a joker, I like to make pranks, but when I see someone that 20 years ago I would go, oh, she's not so hot, or oh, she's this. I'm a guy. I was like, she's a nice person, or this is happening, or hey, that's a happy couple. I start writing those narratives, and then writing those narratives brings those type of people into my life, because when you script that narrative and you change that stuff, you create different energy. I'm telling you, it's going. For some of you, you'll see it immediately. For some of you, it may take some more time. But when you start scripting your life like that and looking at people as everyone has value, instead of going like, oh, she's an ugly chick, like, oh, she's probably a nice person. Oh, she's brilliant. She's probably really smart. And really, really focus on those positive aspects of that person. A lot of bad stuff stops happening. Seriously, I mean, it's kind of amazing, because what you're doing is creating a wavelength of positivity that only, and this person has no idea you're doing this stuff, because it's not for them, it's for you. Because when you do that, you create a whole different level of energy to yourself that will help you be successful. Because I got this from Earl Nightingale, and it's very true. Everything that we do, everything that we become, some way, somehow, some fashion, other people are involved. There's no way around it. If you run a business, you need customers, other people. If you want to have a healthy relationship, you need someone, another person. To be born, you needed your mom and your dad. I mean, there's no way around. You can't do anything on this planet completely by yourself unless you go up into the mountains like this guy Dirk, build a cabin, peat moss, make spoons out of trees, and never talk to another person. And you go out there and you do all that stuff after, being brought to adulthood from other people. At that point, you are totally self-sufficient, independent, by yourself. Okay, you do that. But if you're here in a metropolis or a city or a town, you need people. There's no way around it. You need people. You can't get around it. I don't care what you do, what you say, you can't get around it. So knowing that and writing those positive scripts, and that's one of the reasons that I stopped with the rants on YouTube, because I had to check myself again. I'm saying, all right, really, where's your energy best served? Is it really best served on people who are screaming for attention because they're nobodies? And seriously, I'm not trying to be malicious, but it's true. If you're going to go on YouTube and attack someone you don't know, because you're bored, that says a lot about your life. That you're going to maliciously go out and set digital fires to see if anyone reacts. And I was reacting. And I had to pull back. And the new policy is, if you have a comment that disagrees with me, as long as you do it in a respectful manner, I'll talk to you a few times and that's it. But if it's something over the top of crazy, delete, move on, block. Because it's just not worth it. And I had to go through that. Because, I'm like, oh, you said that. And really, at the end of the day, only a small group of people really matter. And once again, feedback, I need to work and focus on those group of people. And I just, got rid of the email list. I had this big email list full of people who are not engaged. Got rid of some other stuff, and I'm getting ready to make another major change. And that's part of growth. And for those of us in the United States of America who become a certain age, growth and change like that becomes scary. Because another narrative that you hear that's very limiting is by the age of 42, 45, 46, 50, 60, you're supposed to have X, Y, Z. Really? It doesn't happen that way. Danny DeVito his career didn't really kick into gear until he was like damn near 50. It happens. And the thing is, it's about narratives, it's about time, it's about what you pick, it's about you. But the whole deal is, if you're like 50 years old right now and you're not where you want to be, don't feel bad. Don't start kicking yourself, because as long as you're alive, you can get there. And that's one of the things that really, really kills a lot of people is the ageism narrative. You're such age, you're supposed to be this. Who says that? I mean, seriously, you may not want those things that people say you're supposed to have. If you don't want them, seriously, why should you have them? There are people out there working jobs, living in neighborhoods, living in houses, driving cars and stuff they really are not that crazy about. But because they're supposed to have it, they have it. You don't have to do that. It's a choice. But like I said, don't get down. Don't, because I've fallen down, in my early 30s. I was a scrub. Joined the military, had built up a career working in hospitals, and lost it all. And was homeless for a short period of time, living in a boarding house, didn't have a car. And I remember there was this girl, I used to work in Powertel. I hit on her, and we were talking, and then I was like, I didn't have a car. This chick cussed me out. Straight up cussed me out. I was just like, I put the phone down. I said, okay, I'm not going to call you anymore. She cussed me out. Later on, I realized that apparently this woman had been running into a lot of guys who were not financial enough to take her out, and she was frustrated, so she let it out on me. And, that's kind of something else that you have to get to a point. When someone does something evil, it may have nothing to do with you at all. At all. And I was completely blown away, but as I look back and everything, it's just like when someone's coming at you with that much heat, it usually has nothing to do with you unless you've really done something and you're probably in a close relationship. I didn't even know this chick. First time I ever met her, and she was just like going off like that. But that's the thing. And if I didn't develop the ability to dream new dreams, I could have just like slid into total mediocrity at that age. I see it all the time. People, it's like you don't reach a certain point by a certain age, you might as well stop trying. It's like, I think that's stupid. It's stupid. But many people buy into it because it's a narrative. If you're not here by a certain, give you another narrative. And this one right here, you have ample evidence to prove that it's false. By the time that you're a certain age, you need to have 1.2 million to ensure a decent retirement. I grew up in Alabama. I grew up with a lot of people who retired, who didn't have 1.2 million, but they did some things that was smart. They paid their house off. They paid cash for vehicles. These were poor people. And until they passed on, I could go home and sit in these people's house because the snatcher man, as we used to say, the snatcher man never came to get their house and their car because they were paid for. And these folks didn't make millions of dollars. Some of these folks made less than 20 G's back in the day per year. But Many of them had something that many of us today don't have. They had a pension. I don't care what anyone tells you, 401k, whatever, a pension's always better. A pension's always better. But, coal miners, steel miners, they had that pension. And they did the proper things, and they didn't make a whole lot of money, and they had great retirements, going on trips, doing stuff for their grandkids. It's what you do. So, that whole thing about, I need to have all this, and you're like freaking out. Work out, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and think about the things that matter. So, but essentially, with narratives, you have to think about it. Now, your exercise for the week. You need to write down what are your core beliefs and what are some of those limiting beliefs that are holding you back from the things that you want. I can't answer that for you because everyone's different, but give you an example. When I was a scrub, I used to think successful people were pricks. I used to think that successful people with money, were unhappy, stressed out. And it's bullshit. There are some that fit that profile, but there are many people who are quite well off, who are very happy, they have great families, and are living a wonderful life. A lot of them. Because money may not buy happiness, but it solves a lot of damn problems. Alright, so that's your assignment. Write down those core beliefs and then also create scripts to counteract them. And I'll see you in the next video.